In Chapter 1, Peter Grant and D.S. Guleed stake out Richard Williams, a PR executive and former Oxford student connected to the magical dining club The Little Crocodiles, once taught magic by Geoffrey Wheatcroft, a Folly wizard. The Folly suspects Martin Chorley, the second Faceless Man, recruited ex-members, so they launch poke operations to spook potential associates and see who reacts. Williams is their third target. When Nightingale and D.C. Carey approach his Chiswick home, Nightingale's powerful magic suddenly flares inside. A woman, the family's nanny, bursts through the roof, blood on her mouth, and attacks Peter and Guleed with unnatural strength and agility. They manage to knock her down, but can't hold her as she escapes. Inside, Nightingale saves Williams, who's been brutally bitten in the throat. The nanny's superhuman violence and resilience confirm she's something magical, and likely tied to Chorley and the Faceless Man's surviving network. In Chapter 2, Peter and Guleed guard Richard Williams at UCH after the nanny's attack, while Nightingale continues the search. Nightingale believes the nanny targeted Williams because he knew something Martin Chorley wanted silenced. Guleed interviews Williams's wife, Fiona, while Peter investigates their Chiswick home. The house, recently refurbished for sale, appears too tidy, suggesting the nanny was either exceptionally efficient or unnaturally controlling. Blood evidence shows she attacked Williams in the kitchen before fleeing upstairs, where Nightingale's magic blasted her through the roof. Searching the house, Peter finds archaeological site reports from the Museum of London and part of a film script titled Against the Dark, co-written by Williams and two men, Gabriel Tate and John Chapman. New leads, possibly linking Williams to Chorley. The nanny's identity proves false. Her real name belongs to a Scottish addict who sold her ID, confirming their attacker was magically altered or entirely fabricated. In Chapter 3, Peter spends the evening with Beverly cooking dinner and discussing the Pale Nanny. He theorizes, with input from Beverly, that the creature wasn't a chimera but a high fae, one of the ancient magical beings who predate modern practitioners. He recalls evidence of three magical types: those born magical, like fae, those who learn it, like Peter and Nightingale, and those changed by it, such as victims of magical transformation. The nanny, likely altered or created through such means, may connect to crimes against humanity committed by the Faceless Man's network. Beverly warns Peter not to misuse certain fae titles, implying real political danger. Their evening includes Abigail and Nikki, Beverly's young sister, demonstrating growing magical skill. Peter reflects on Abigail's potential and his responsibility for her safety as an apprentice. The chapter ends quietly with domestic normalcy, contrasting the looming mystery of Chorley and the magical threat. In Chapter 4, Peter details the Folly's history, founded in the 18th century as the headquarters of the Society of the Wise, Britain's center of official wizardry. Now part of the Metropolitan Police, it houses Operation Jennifer, the ongoing effort to locate Martin Chorley, the second Faceless Man. During the morning briefing, Nightingale, Seawall, Guleed, and Peter review progress after the attack on Richard Williams. Analysts confirm Williams' ties to Chorley through his Oxford connections and the Little Crocodiles. Fiona Williams remains emotionally detached and may be hiding something. The nanny's true identity is still unknown. Guleed reports that Williams secretly visited the Whitechapel Bell Foundry multiple times, concealing it from his wife. The team decides this is their next lead. Peter and Guleed are ordered to investigate the foundry, while Operation Jennifer continues monitoring potential Chorley associates, hoping Williams will recover and reveal what he knew before the nanny attacked. In Chapter 5, Peter and Guleed investigate the Whitechapel Bell Foundry, following Richard Williams's secret visits there. While waiting nearby, Peter contacts Mola and learns that Roman bricks with ritual significance have been stolen from multiple London archaeological sites, suggesting the thief knew exactly what they were after. At the foundry, they meet Dr. Gavin Conyard, who confirms Williams commissioned a massive bronze bell still on site and never collected. The bell bears a Greek inscription meaning, "Prepare yourself for the roaring voice of the god of joy." When Peter touches it, he senses a faint but powerful vestigium, echoes of sound and slaughterhouse blood, indicating magical resonance. Realizing it may be part of a dangerous device or ritual weapon, Peter orders the foundry evacuated immediately. The discovery links Williams and the bell directly to the Faceless Man's network and to a larger, still unfolding magical conspiracy within London. In Chapter 6, Nightingale examines the massive bell, but finds no evidence of a demon trap, only faint magical energy. Peter and Guleed then rush to University College Hospital, where Richard Williams has regained consciousness under armed guard. Terrified, Williams reveals that Gabriel Tate introduced him to Martin Chorley, for whom he later did favors involving equipment and transport. He admits to being a member of the Little Crocodiles, but insists he never practiced magic seriously. When questioned about the bell, Williams explains that it bears a quote from the Baccha, a reference to Dionysus, and that Chorley called it a bell for ringing in the changes, meant to wake the nation. Before he can say more, the pale nanny, disguised as a nurse, bursts into the hospital and is shot by the guard, dying before she can speak. In the chaos, Guleed discovers that Richard Williams has also been murdered moments later. In Chapter 7, the deaths of Richard Williams and the pale nanny trigger an independent police complaints commission investigation. Peter, Guleed, and Lucy are questioned but cleared of wrongdoing, as Lucy's actions were justified. Returning to the Folly, Peter investigates further. Gabriel Tate has relocated to Australia, and John Chapman to the U.S., both former associates of Williams and possibly Martin Chorley. Dr. Waleed and Dr. Vaughn later invite Peter to the post-mortem. They find no clear cause of Williams's death, but a burn tattoo on his leg in Tolkien's Elvish script, one of Chorley's signature markings, likely part of a small demon trap network. The pale nanny, now renamed Charlotte Green, is revealed to be a natural non-human species similar to Molly, not a magically altered chimera. This discovery proves that Chorley is working with or creating powerful supernatural beings, and that his plans are escalating beyond human control. In Chapter 8, Peter investigates Charlotte Greenwood's origins by visiting demi-monde pubs across London, searching for anyone who recognizes her. During this, he learns that Gabriel Tate, one of Williams's former associates, has died in Australia from a snakebite, while John Chapman was killed in Ohio after a mysterious sword-wielding attacker, likely magical, was shot by police. Peter's FBI contact, Agent Kimberly Reynolds, suspects supernatural involvement and plans to interview the surviving officers. Back in London, Peter follows a lead from Marcia, a canal-dwelling contact who hints at strange disturbances in the city linked to the High Fae. Her tip leads him to the Goat and Crocodile pub in Shoreditch, where he meets Lulu, the living embodiment of the buried river Walbrook. Lulu warns him not to speak of her family or other river gods. Later, Beverly confides that Walbrook may not be her mother's child at all, but something far older, deepening the mystery. In Chapter 9, Operation Jennifer becomes a full-scale investigation managed by Sergeant Wainscrow, linking the stolen Roman bricks to the mold used for Richard Williams's mysterious bell. Peter confirms that Williams supplied special aggregate, possibly made from the stolen materials, suggesting the bell's construction involved ancient ritual components. While Nightingale guards the bell, Peter reviews Against the Dark, the unfinished film script co-written by Williams, Tate, and Chapman, all of whom are now dead. The script's Arthurian themes mirror Chorley's obsession with myth and the Age of Arthur. Further research reveals a text by Roger Bacon referencing St. Paul's foundation and bells used to usher in change or fulfill prophecy, matching Chorley's description of his bell for ringing in the changes. Peter concludes the bell's creation is no coincidence but part of Chorley's larger magical plan, combining stolen sacred materials and mythic symbolism to trigger a dangerous transformation across London. In Chapter 10, during the First Lady's visit to Whitechapel, Nightingale assigns Peter to guard the magical bell at the Whitechapel Foundry, fearing Martin Chorley might strike while the police are distracted. As Peter monitors the site, the bell begins to hum and resonate with supernatural energy, moments before Lesley appears, demanding he hand it over. Their tense confrontation reveals her alignment with Chorley and her belief that his plan could change things for everyone, suggesting she sees it as a revolutionary cause. The bell reacts to her voice, confirming its connection to Chorley's magic. Peter secretly alerts his team as Lesley withdraws, leaving with a moped accomplice. The encounter exposes Chorley's network, Lesley's continued loyalty to him, and hints at the bell's true purpose, a tool to ring in change for London. Nightingale's later call confirms the operation's success. Lesley took the bait, and they may now have a lead. In Chapter 11, Peter and Nightingale decide the only safe option is to destroy the enchanted bell, rather than risk Chorley reclaiming it. Under Dr. Conyard's supervision, the bell is shattered and its fragments scattered across multiple scrap sites to prevent reassembly. As it breaks, Peter hears Mr. Punch's mocking laughter, a reminder of the darker magic behind the object. Later, FBI agent Kimberly Reynolds reports that John Chapman, one of the Against the Dark screenwriters, was a predatory academic whose electronics mysteriously turned to sand after his death, leaving only flash drives containing the film script. Peter reads the script, a supernatural tale set in Saxon London involving St. Paul's Cathedral, mass sacrifice, and a cursed spirit. A clear parallel to Chorley's interests in myth and transformation. Professor Post-Martin's analysis confirms historical accuracy and connections to St. Paul's and Arthurian legend, leading Peter to suspect Chorley's ultimate plan ties to these ancient sites and symbols. In Chapter 12, Peter attends the summer court of Father Thames at Milan, representing the Folly while Nightingale remains in London. Beverly arrives by river and Abigail accompanies Peter. At the gathering, Peter pays respects to Oxley, Isis, and Father Thames, witnessing the mingling of river deities and mortals. During a quiet moment, Peter questions Oxley about King Arthur, but Oxley admits even ancient beings can't clearly recall distant history, warning that asking the old man of the river for answers always carries a heavy price. The festival continues with feasting, drinking, and late-night mischief among both spirits and humans. Later, Peter overhears Abigail socializing near her tent, but resists intervening after Beverly assures him she's safe. The next morning, as the summer court cleans up, Peter receives a call from Stephanopoulos summoning him back to London for an urgent Falcon assessment at a new City of London crime scene. In Chapter 13, Peter investigates a new crime scene at the Bloomberg construction site, where a goat has been ritually sacrificed inside the rebuilt Temple of Mithras. The blood patterns indicate deliberate planning. Plastic sheeting was used, and the participants removed evidence afterward. Peter suspects a magical ritual rather than simple vandalism. Research links the act to ancient Bacchic worship and London's pagan past. Evidence points to Patrick Gale, a powerful lawyer previously tied to another goat sacrifice case. Peter and Nightingale confront him, with Nightingale using magic to compel cooperation. Gale confesses that he and others, taught magic by the late John Chapman, perform Dionysian rites twice a year to protect London from chaos. He reveals Chapman learned from a group called the Paternoster Society, once meeting near St. Paul's South. Nightingale places Gale under his supervision for retraining, while Peter realizes the Paternoster connection may tie directly to Chorley's growing conspiracy. In Chapter 14, Sewell pushes the team to take a more proactive stance in Operation Jennifer, arguing that capturing Lesley May is key to stopping Martin Chorley. Nightingale, Peter, Guleed, and Carey begin planning a covert surveillance operation on Leslie's boyfriend, Zachary Palmer. But before they can act, Chorley strikes again, raiding the Museum of London Archaeology's Islington warehouse. Using stolen industrial vehicles, the thieves smash through the gates and steal over a ton of archaeological material, including masonry and medieval artifacts from a St. Paul's Cathedral site. Peter and Nightingale conclude Lesley planned the blunt, high-speed assault to outmaneuver their defenses. Investigating further, Peter learns from archaeologist Robert Skeen that the stolen debris likely came from medieval cathedral ruins mixed with clay pipes. Realizing Chorley is gathering materials tied to St. Paul's and ancient faith sites, the Folly prepares to confront Lesley directly before Chorley's plan reaches completion. In Chapter 15, Peter and Carey stake out Zachary Palmer, Crossrail's informal liaison to the Quiet People, because he's the best lead to Lesley. Jaggett tracks Zach on the underground. Nightingale directs units. Zach moves through central London and slips into Heron Tower. Peter and Carey force access to the 34 10th-floor suite by cutting power to the door magnets, confront Zach, and subdue him after Carey strikes him. The suite is a furnished plywood set, bed, kitchen, expensive furniture, and displays a row of wig-holding busts used for Leslie's face changes. Zach admits nothing about Lesley. He's arrested as a suspect. Peter notes the bespoke furnishings and masks as forensic leads, trace the furniture, the pass used to access the floor, and the office's ownership to link the suite and purchases back to Chorley. The capture of Zach gives the Folly a tangible location and material evidence tying Chorley's operation to Leslie's disguises and possible safe houses. In Chapter 16, Zach is arrested for obstruction and questioned for 14 hours without results. Peter stays overnight at the Heron Tower flat in case Lesley returns, then returns to the Folly, where Dr. Guleed, Dr. Vaughn, and Abigail perform an autopsy on a talking fox killed by blunt trauma, possibly hit by a car. After resting, Peter retrieves Zack for a follow-up conversation, bringing him cakes to loosen him up. During their talk, Zack warns Peter that Lesley and Chorley are planning to summon and sacrifice Mr. Punch, the chaotic London spirit once bound to Lesley, to gain immense magical power. He also reveals that Lesley was impressed by Peter's survival at Sky Garden, and that Chorley's plan requires her specifically, though he doesn't know why. Peter presses Zack to arrange a meeting with Lesley, but Zack refuses, saying she won't risk seeing him again after Peter's betrayal. The Folly now knows Chorley's ritual involves Mr. Punch's destruction. In Chapter 17, Peter devises a plan to learn the true origin of Mr. Punch. Instead of consulting Father Thames, he decides to summon Sir William Tyburn, the ancient river spirit who predates Roman London. Peter performs an elaborate cleansing ritual in the Tyburn sewers using bleach, candles, and a costly 1964 Romany Conti to attract Lady Tyburn's attention. She appears, amused, but accepting his offering, and sends him into a trance where he meets Sir William. In a vision of ancient Thorny Island, Sir William tells Peter the real story. Mr. Punch was once a man named Kata, a Romanized Briton whose family was slaughtered during Boudica's revolt. Driven mad by grief, his death and laughter birthed a vengeful spirit, the embodiment of London's rage and rebellion. The Romans, fearing his power, made him a god to contain him. Peter awakens in an ambulance, realizing that Mr. Punch is a god, and Martin Chorley plans to sacrifice him. In Chapter 18, Peter, Nightingale, Post Martin, Dr. Guleed, and Abigail hold a tea committee meeting to assess the threat posed by Martin Chorley's plan to kill Mr. Punch. Now knowing Punch is a god, they conclude that destroying him could dangerously destabilize the magical balance, or idolosphere. Despite their concerns, Peter insists that Lesley, still working with Chorley, is their best chance at discovering his true goal. The group agrees to prepare for another attempt to contact her. Post Martin heads to Oxford to search for records of dead Jeannie Lacorum, while Abigail begins research in the magical library. Peter investigates archaeologist Camilla Turner, who deleted her emails after helping the Paternoster Society locate a 5th century Saxon sword. She admits to feeding information to John Chapman, unaware he was long dead, linking Chorley's group to the sword thefts and to the mythic Excalibur. The sword's ancient power and musical resonance suggest it may be central to Chorley's plan. In Chapter 19, Peter delivers Camilla Turner to Belgravia for protection, fearing Martin Chorley might eliminate her to maintain secrecy. Returning to the Folly, he finds Abigail asleep among her research notes. Curious, he reads her work and discovers she's been studying a rare American text, Devil River by Robert Sharp, which details a 19th century expedition to destroy a local river spirit in Montana. The group subdued the genius loci, Yellowstone, using a mysterious red box said to contain the spirit of death, described as an infection from Europe. Abigail links this to magical theory, suggesting it drained power through tactus disvitae, possibly vampirism. Her notes propose the idea of weaponized vampires, echoing Nightingale's accounts of wartime experiments into vampiric magic. Peter arranges to have the text analyzed, suspecting the knowledge could relate to Chorley's plans or hidden Folly archives like the Black Library. He then wakes Abigail to take her home. In Chapter 20, Peter analyzes Camilla Turner's recovered emails, confirming that someone used the account of the deceased John Chapman, likely Martin Chorley, to pressure her for information about the River Walbrook and potential magical artifacts. Searching keywords like Excalibur and Genius Loci, Peter uncovers exchanges linking the Paternoster Society's archaeological interest to ancient river deities and possibly the sword itself. Tracing leads to their listed address, he investigates a St. Paul's Youth Hostel annex, discovering a sealed, antique-filled room modeled after the Folly. Inside, he finds an empty glass display case labeled, "In case of Britain's greatest need, break glass," clearly meant for a sword, likely Excalibur. The room's cleanliness and missing books suggest recent use. Peter suspects Chorley seeks to awaken or recreate Arthurian power using the sword and Mr. Punch's death. Realizing this could tie to ancient magic, Peter calls Isis Thames to arrange a meeting with her father, the Old Man of the River. In Chapter 21, Peter meets Isis, Oxley, and Beverly for drinks at Covent Garden before their night at the opera. While they reminisce, Peter reflects on past investigations and the chaos tied to this area. During their conversation, Isis reveals she spoke to Father Thames about King Arthur, who answered with a Latin prophecy, Decido preconi lucis, si pontem ad urbem servandam dissolvet, premium suum exilium erit. Translated, it warns that if the herald of the morning destroys the bridge to save the city, his reward will be exile. Peter realizes the message may refer to him recalling how he once pinned Mr. Punch to London Bridge during their first confrontation. The encounter hints that his fate may again tie to London's magical balance and the city's bridges. Though the evening remains light-hearted, the prophecy leaves Peter uneasy about what's coming next in Martin Chorley's escalating plot. In Chapter 22, Peter's breakfast is interrupted by a call from Lesley warning that Martin Chorley plans an experimental sacrifice, claiming London has enough rivers already. Fearing he means to kill one of the river goddesses, Peter alerts Nightingale, Lady Ty, and other agencies. He and Carrie head to Walbrook's pub, the Goat and Crocodile, just as Chorley attacks using a magical weaponized van and a captive vampire sealed in a tin. The pub explodes, and a violent chase follows through Shoreditch. Peter pursues Chorley, who has abducted Walbrook, on foot and then, by bicycle, managing to board the van mid-pursuit. Inside, he frees Walbrook and fights Chorley before being thrown clear when the van crashes and explodes. Nightingale arrives and drives Chorley off, though he escapes again. The vampire tin is safely incinerated, Walbrook rescued, and Peter, injured and exhausted, is taken for medical evaluation as the team regroups to assess the fallout. In Chapter 23, Peter is ordered by Dr. Guleed to take time off after the chaos with Chorley, but he sneaks into the Friday briefing anyway. The team reviews the failed kidnapping of Walbrook. Chorley escaped, but his plan was thwarted. Nightingale sends Peter home, where he spends a quiet, grounding weekend with his parents in Beverly. On Monday, Sewell informs Peter and Guleed that David Carey has taken indefinite medical leave due to acute stress, warning them to prioritize mental health while adding new support protocols for the Falcon unit. Afterward, Guleed investigates Chorley's possible contacts while Peter resumes field duties. He joins Special Constable Nguyen at Amen Court, near St. Paul S., where a burned rat sacrifice and a pentagram mark a potential new ritual linked to the Black Dog of Newgate legend. While examining the site, Peter senses dark vestigia, and just as he leaves, he receives a sudden call from Lesley. In Chapter 24, Peter receives a sudden call from Lesley and alerts the Folly before meeting her at a Wetherspoons pub on High Holborn. Lesley, disguised by magic, admits she warned Peter about Chorley's plan but insists she's working with him, not for him. Their tense conversation reveals Chorley's intent to kill Mr. Punch, which Lesley believes will make the world better. Peter argues that Punch may be vital to London's magical balance, but Lesley, still haunted by Punch's past manipulation of her, dismisses the city as corrupt and parasitic. Before leaving, she urges Peter to take time off and not follow her. Ignoring the warning, Peter tries to tail her but loses sight of her outside. Moments later, an unmarked police car stops, and when he gets in, Lesley ambushes him from behind, injecting him with a sedative. His consciousness fades as the car speeds away, realizing he's been captured. In Chapter 25, Peter wakes hooded, bound, and sedated in the back of a van. Lesley and Martin Chorley have kidnapped him. Taken to an abandoned 1930s industrial building, Peter is restrained and connected to a crude electrical device to prevent spellcasting. Chorley claims he spared Peter's life because Lesley still cares for him and believes he could have a place in their new order. During interrogation, Peter learns Chorley's true goal: not to resurrect King Arthur, but to summon the power behind the myth, Merlin himself, to rebuild Britain into his vision of a better society. Lesley defends the plan, insisting London is rotten and must be remade. Chorley introduces Peter to Foxglove, an inhumanly graceful Fey woman who easily carries him away. She brings him to a workshop with a deep pit, which Chorley says will hold him safe until their work is done, then orders Foxglove to throw Peter into it. In Chapter 26, Peter wakes imprisoned in an underground cell, an oubliette specially designed to nullify his magic. The chamber is clean, furnished with 2 futons, a shower, and basic supplies, but devoid of anything useful for escape. Chorley taunts him from above, explaining the cell was made especially for him. After Chorley leaves, Peter realizes the magic's suppression feels like being in a fragment of fairyland. Soon, Foxglove, the Fey woman assisting Chorley, drops into the cell carrying clothes and food, confirming she shares the space. Her supernatural agility and hostility make escape impossible. Peter cautiously tests the environment, suspects the cell exists at a boundary between worlds, and begins strategizing while pretending to cooperate. As night falls, he notes subtle magical vibrations, like the cell itself is alive or breathing. Realizing he's been captive for at least 24 hours, Peter prepares to wait, watch, and look for an opening to break free. In Chapter 27, Peter endures several days imprisoned in the oubliette with Foxglove, establishing a routine of food deliveries, cleaning, and quiet observation. The magical suppression field still prevents him from casting spells, but he notices it weakens slightly whenever Foxglove leaves. Confirming her presence sustains it. He secretly hides a stolen bedsheet to prepare a makeshift escape rope. Over time, Foxglove begins sketching Peter, and he learns through gestures that she is bound to Chorley as a magical slave, not a willing accomplice. Lesley later visits, taunting Peter that the job's nearly done, and claiming Chorley's plan will make things better. She drops him a Tesco bag filled with snacks, rum, and a receipt revealing she'd shopped in Covent Garden, a potential clue to his location. Realizing Chorley's ritual is close to completion, Peter knows time is running out and resolves to find a way to escape the oubliette before it's too late. In Chapter 28, Peter continues bonding with Foxglove, who finally reveals her tragic past. She was one of several Fae traded by their queen to Albert Woodville Gentle, the original Faceless Man, and enslaved to serve as an attraction in his magical Soho club. After his death, she and her surviving sisters were abandoned in a pit for years until Martin Chorley rescued and repurposed them, Foxglove as a painter and servant. She shows Peter her art, including portraits of her lost sisters, two of whom he recognizes as Fae he's killed. When he tells her the truth, Foxglove collapses in grief, and the weakening of the fairy bubble allows Peter to perform magic again. He builds a rope from his bedsheets, planning to escape, but when the spellbook anchoring it falls, Foxglove suddenly awakens, furious and glowing with supernatural energy. She seizes Peter and leaps out of the oubliette, carrying him with her. In Chapter 29, Peter and Foxglove escape Chorley's Brixton hideout through the workshop and into the streets, where Peter uses magic to break locks. Foxglove struggles outside, terrified of open air, but follows him to safety. After narrowly avoiding a bus, Peter realizes they're near Cold Harbor Lane and leads her into a Nisa local to call Guleed. She responds quickly, and with Nightingale's arrival, they plan a raid on Chorley's base while Peter escorts Foxglove to the Folly. There, Foxglove is overwhelmed by her reunion with Molly. The two recognize each other instantly and disappear together in tears. Dr. Guleed examines Peter, confirming he's stable, but warning him to watch for trauma symptoms. Later, Peter calls his parents and finally reunites with Beverly, who's been waiting for him at the Folly's back door. They embrace, share a kiss, and retreat upstairs together, marking Peter's first moment of peace after his captivity. In Chapter 30, Peter and Guleed return to Chorley's abandoned Brixton factory, now secured by Nightingale and a full forensic team. Inside, they find no trace of the second bell or Chorley's vehicles, but evidence confirms Peter's imprisonment. Nightingale worries that Peter's escape may have been part of Chorley's plan to divert police resources. CCTV footage reveals two unregistered vans leaving before the raid, likely carrying the missing bell. To gather leads, Abigail arrives and uses Molly's cheese puffs to bribe talking foxes who report seeing the vans depart during mouse time, early evening. The footage later proves tampered with, but investigators identify the van's color and make. Meanwhile, Foxglove quietly settles at the Folly, and Molly reappears after days of absence. One night, Peter and Nightingale watch the two Fae women dance gracefully beneath moonlight, a rare moment of calm before the next phase of Chorley's escalating plan begins. In Chapter 31, Peter, Nightingale, and the team locate one of Chorley's missing vans parked in an underground car park beneath Smithfield Market. The area is secured, with Stephanopoulos leading the ground operation while Nightingale coordinates nearby. When Lesley arrives driving a mint-colored Fiesta, Peter intercepts her, but she and Chorley quickly engage in a magical fight. Peter is blinded by Lesley's spell, but manages to wound her with a glitter bomb before Stephanopoulos tasers Chorley. Lesley shoots Stephanopoulos in the leg, freeing Chorley, who escapes in the van. Nightingale and Peter pursue him through the tunnels beneath the market, using Peter's experimental bumblebee wear-lights to flush him out. The chase ends when the van explodes in flames, the magical bell visible inside. With no sign of Chorley escaping the wreckage, Sewell orders the scene secured, and the team hopes Chorley has finally been killed. In Chapter 32, DNA testing begins to confirm whether the burned corpse from the Smithfield explosion is truly Martin Chorley, though no one believes it. With Lesley still at large, and a missing sword and possible third bell, the team splits up. Nightingale investigates Glastonbury, Guleed searches Bell Foundries, and Peter remains on standby in London. While reflecting on Sewell's warning to go hard, Peter communes with Mr. Punch at London Bridge, striking a dark bargain to stop Chorley. Later, he senses the Bell's vestigia in Covent Garden's Actors' Church and calls Sewell. Inside, he finds Chorley and Lesley installing the final bell. When Lesley strikes it with Excalibur, Peter tackles Chorley, and they both fall. Instead of hitting London, Peter lands in a surreal mythic version of ancient London, where spectral armies clash, and a godlike male version of Beverly appears, declaring, "War has come to London again." In Chapter 33, Peter finds himself in a mythic vision of ancient London, where Tyburn leads a Roman legion against spectral Norsemen as Peter chases Chorley toward London Bridge. The Black Dog of Newgate destroys Tyburn's chariot, forcing Peter to pursue Chorley on foot. On the bridge, Peter confronts him. Then Mr. Punch appears, kills Chorley in rage, and is stopped only by his daughter, the goddess Walbrook, who banishes them both and sends Peter back to the present. He and Chorley crash onto a van outside the Actors' Church, injured but alive. Lesley arrives, furious that Chorley survived the ritual, and the three face off. Peter and Lesley briefly work together to subdue Chorley, cuffing him, until Lesley abruptly shoots him in the head, killing him. She forces Peter to handcuff himself to the corpse before escaping, leaving him alone in the rain to await backup and the fallout. In Chapter 34, Peter is suspended following Martin Chorley's death in his custody and faces an IPCC investigation. Forced to move out of the Folly, he lives with Beverly and adjusts to civilian life while still helping Nightingale train new practitioners. Abigail continues her studies under both of them, and Foxglove remains at the Folly under Molly's supervision. Stephanopoulos recovers from her gunshot wound, while Nightingale and Caffrey handle smaller supernatural cases, including a vampire nest. Peter arranges asylum for Foxglove through Lady Ty and assists in training 6 new recruits in basic, non-lethal magic at a community center. Struggling with trauma, he begins therapy with Dr. Valerie Green, who understands the magical world. As Peter balances his uncertain future, he and Beverly discuss his career and commitment until she reveals she's pregnant, marking a new chapter for both of them amid the lingering uncertainty of his suspension.